Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to the finals of the ESL Open Cup 227 for the European server. It's going to be a familiar sight as once again we've got ourselves a Protoss versus Terran. Game number one, we find ourselves on the map Ghost River and spawning right here in the top right hand corner. Joined by the little polar bear on the main command center, we have none other than Clem. And his opponent in the top left with the blue Protoss pieces. Of course, we're looking at none other than MaxPax's main Nexus. Honestly, one of my favorite rivalries in modern StarCraft 2. These two have really been pushing each other to the limit. Initially, when they first started playing against each other all the time, it was relatively straightforward with a bunch of, I don't know, a bunch of like Blink Stalker boys going up against Widowmine drops and very standard gameplay, which is fun, but at some point, you know, when you realize, okay, it's gonna be another Clem versus MaxPax finals. At some point, it may become a little bit quote-unquote boring because they play the same things over and over and over again, but I've noticed over the last 2 to 3 months or so, they have really been mixing it up. It's been fun to watch this rivalry develop because both of the players really are going for a lot more shenanigans currently. Although, of course, with a very macro-focused approach, right? Neither of these two would ever be categorized as a cheeser. I love watching cheese, but this is basically, in my mind actually, right now, the highest ranking Terran versus Protoss that you can get. Because not only is there just raw skill, both of these players are ridiculously good. They also know the opponent inside and out, and I think that makes it a very interesting matchup. Alright, so far, nothing all too weird. Got ourselves a Nexus on the low ground for our Protoss. Cybercore already building at about 20 supply. Clem has decided to go for the in-base expansion for the time being here. Or at the very least, we should be seeing, well, maybe he's actually going to be building it on the low ground, but point I'm trying to make is that he has decided to go for the factory first with the double gas. So no super quick expansion on the low ground. This of course does mean that Clem needs to be the aggressor here. He needs to get something done in order to justify this early game. Whereas MaxPax is looking at all of this, he's like, you know what? Let me build a cheeky little pylon on the other side of the map, see how you deal with it. So, Cybercore at this point is done. We do not have a tech choice just yet, and the reason for that is, well, pretty straightforward. He's going to be building it on the other side of the map instead. This is a map with a very, very quick rush distance. I'm assuming this will be a... Oh, it's just going to be a gateway. All right. I was going to say this could be a Stargate or something along those lines, but it wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense because it would already be quite delayed at this point in time. So it's just going to be a good old gateway here, and we're going to be rushing as many units towards the opposing side of the map. Gateway over here will get scouted. It does complete the wall off, so that Reaper can't actually continue jumping around in the main base. Even though apparently the Reaper's jetpack has the ability to boost all the way up to a high ground, it can't possibly be boosting in between these structures, for example. No. That boost ability can only be used every time it's available, which is all the time. But for some reason, apparently not when it comes to... Nice little grenade there. Apparently not when it comes to boosting over any of those structures. Alrighty, Twilight Council on the back of this. So, this will give MaxPax a very easy point to reinforce his units from, right? So, the idea here is to just go into a relatively normal game, but rather than being forced to reinforce with a Warp Prism, we're going to be able to do that quite comfortably here by, well, warping in right from this spot. Command Center, going down towards the low ground at this point in time. Siege Tank production will begin as well in just a moment. Clem so far just being a one-base Terran. It means that he's got a bunch of stuff, right? He's got a collection of units inside of that medevac, but this is a brilliant interception here by MaxPax, anticipating this exact move. Good targeting right there as well with one of those cheeky stalkers. Loses one of the stalkers in exchange for a medevac. I think this is all going really well right here for the Danish Protoss, who is shutting down this early game quite comfortably. Yeah. Blink, of course, is not done. It is coming, but it's only about a quarter or so of the way finished at this point. Honestly, really well handled here by our Protoss player. Even though resources lost-wise, this may not look that brilliant for him, keep in mind that this is a delayed expansion for the Terran, whereas Protoss has had that base up for a while, and if he wants to, he could certainly be thinking about making a third Nexus right around this point in time. Widowmine, alright, is going to demand a tribute. Sorry about that, little Probius. Yeah. Now, I wasn't going to be a stalker. I don't know if you realize that, little Probius, but it was never going to be a Stalker. Liberator going around. Also, I don't love this because it feels almost a little bit desperate, right? Like, at this point, you know that it's gonna be Blink. It pretty much has to be Blink because there have not been any Oracles or anything like that. So, you know that if Blink Stalkers are available, you need to almost catch your opponent off guard and get a little bit lucky. On the one hand, though, yeah, that may be the case. On the other hand, MaxPax is certainly known for sending his Stalkers towards the other side of the map. He's not really achieving too much, by the way, with the proxy warp gate. Just putting it down and trying to see if he can get some value. All right. Instant reaction right there from MaxPax. You love to see it, but still a bunch of lost mining time, of course, which is not bad. And this is forcing in a warp in at home as well. So that alone is already going to... There you go. That's the anti-F2, the anti-all army hotkey siege up right there for Clem. Just going to leave it over there in the corner, but... He's already occupying a bunch of those Stalkers, which is not that bad. Alrighty. At this point, the worker count has pretty much evened up. Even though MaxPax did take a nice and quick third Nexus on the back of this. Worker-wise, it's not like Clem has been slowed down that much. Plus, of course, he's got those mules, right? And those mules are going to give him a very nice income advantage at this point in time. It looks like MaxPax is mostly just using his army here to prevent the opponent from moving out. So he's got vision here for a medevac that might be passing by. He's got vision over here, of course, too. There's a Raven. Okay. I was going to say, that seems a little bit risky. Raven, of course, a detector, too, so that observer can be spotted quite straightforwardly. Charge on the back of this. +1 on the back of this. A Robo Bay as well. Whereas in the meantime, on the other side of the map, we've got our beloved trio of upgrades. Stimpak combat shields, +1 infantry weapons, and a Raven getting killed. Okay, well, that wasn't part of the strategy. I think the Liberator, by the way, may have just gone back in. Yeah. This Stalker. 3 confirmed kills to its name, and a little bit battered and bruised, but it should be able to regenerate those shields here in just a moment. Alrighty, so, massive skill check right here for Clem. Does MaxPax have enough? Be it with micro, be it with the unit count. Right now, it certainly does not look like he's got remotely enough units here. But the battery overcharge is very strong. Charge and +1 are on the horizon. If you can get a couple of flanking zealots, for example, that does make the game significantly easier. Good control right here by our Protoss. Yeah, in a straight-up battle in the middle of the map, that Stalker army would not have stood a chance. But since Clem is the one who needs to be fighting into the Protoss, right? Those siege tanks aren't really helping out as much other than with the zoning. Just a couple occasional shots. Now we're going to commit, it looks like, with the charge lots. Yeah, charging in wherever they can. Good retargeting there as well by Clem, trying to go after the clumped up units. In the meantime, we have a drop over here in the back of the natural expansion, but it looks like MaxPax is target firing down the medevacs at the very least. He's gonna need more reinforcements. Immortal shows up. I don't think we have another battery overcharge and no energy on that shield battery, or at the very least not enough. In the meantime, Clem on the other side of the map, securing a third command center. So even though none of these fights are really giving him a landslide victory, which is usually what Terran players are looking for, this is Clem building up the economy advantage. Yeah, even though he decided to go for a relatively late natural expansion, not a super quick third, MaxPax knows where this game is going. GG is called. It's Clem who wins game number 1. Golden Aura will be our second map for today. MaxPax opening up with what seems to be a standard build order right here as well. Once more, Clem has decided to go for the good old double gas. So, a delayed expansion for the Terran player once again. Not really rushing out the economy. What's difficult here for Protoss, right, and what I really like for Terran with these openers, is that you can just kind of make whatever. Right? It really feels like you can just make a bunch of stuff, and it all sort of works. You can go for Hellions, you can go for Marauders, you can go for Marines, you can do a bunch of different stuff. Basically, just load all the stuff that you have inside of a medevac, and then send it towards the other side of the map. Now, of course, you are expected to deal some sort of damage, even if it's just to slow down the Protoss economically in any way, right? By, for example, forcing extra warp-ins, or, I don't know, distracting them, maybe taking a good fight, something like that. You are expected to do at least something, but you can also, indeed, follow it up with even more aggression. So, Rather than pulling a lot of SCVs out of gas here, Clem is mining 2 and 2, so 4 workers in gas in total. He's gonna also now proxy the starport. Ooh. Adept does not see it. Okay. That Adept just barely outside of the vision range right there of the starport. It will be a Twilight Council opener once again. So it won't need be Hellions. Okay, so I was actually thinking we're gonna, yeah, make a bunch of Marines and then go for a command center at home and eventually a starport and all that, but that's not what we're doing. MaxPax right now scouts the delayed command center too, although he doesn't know if one is already building over here. That is an assumption that he can potentially make. I think he's certainly going to be playing this quite defensively now. Still does not see the starport, even though he's got an Adept very close by. Blink starts up. No proxy structures this time around here from MaxPax. So let's see. Medevac coming up. We are going to need a third Hellion. Yeah. You want to be able to one-shot those probes. Interesting position, by the way. I expected the proxy to be up over here, so we could boost into the main base instead. But anyways, we are going to be boosting in the direction of the natural expansion probes. Once again, pulled very quickly. Stalker in the main base, already trying to intercept this, trying to get some damage done. How much worker damage, though, can Clem really do here? Okay, picks up the weakened Hellion. My god, some really cute micro here coming out of Clem. Not here to sacrifice his units. 7 probes is certainly not bad. Is that enough? Keep in mind that, of course, if you go for the factory into the starport on the other side of the map, you do end up delaying your command center here a ton. And this is certainly opportunity again, just like in the previous game, for MaxPax to make an expansion. Can we make it? Well, we're gonna need 400 minerals. Alright. How many gateways did we make? Only 2. Only 2 gateways here in total. So not really a lot of opportunity here for MaxPax to go and deal damage on the other side of the map. A 2-gateway start is usually quite defensive. Golden Aura, of course, a fantastic map to be playing macro and defensive play on in general. This is a map that has a tiny little ramp leading on up towards this high ground for the expansion over here. Obviously, the map is mirrored, so we have the same location over here as well on the other side. Same for the other base, though. If you decide to go for the triangular expansion here, this is also not an easy base to attack into. You either destroy the rocks, which takes forever, or you go around the site, which is not very easily done. You can try and engage him from the north, but that's still a choke point. So this is definitely the easiest map to play defensive styles on. Usually this seems to be quite a big macro map. The 2 leftover Hellions from earlier, they got repaired back up to full HP, and they're gonna try and do another little trip towards the other side. Starport apparently now being used as part of the wall off. Okay, so there's Stimpack coming up. +1 infantry weapons, and I'm assuming we will see combat shields. Indeed, it starts up. Not a ton of Widowmine drops anymore, actually, in this matchup. In the most recent multiplayer balance patch, the Widowmine, of course, did get a couple of nerfs. I think it's still very powerful. I still think you can easily go for drops if you want to, but it's one of those weird situations where, like, everybody in the community was complaining about Widowmine drops, but it already wasn't super popular in the first place at the pro level. We see a lot more shenanigans like this, or Cyclones if you're, for example, playing against Bjorn, right? A lot more variety in general. So, yeah. Since it wasn't really super popular in the first place at the pro level, I mean, we saw it quite a bit, but it wasn't necessarily every single game, which is what a lot of community members made it sound like. Now that it got nerfed, yeah, we don't really see it very much anymore. Alrighty. Charge, +1, Robo Bay. This time around, if you look at the economy here for I was going to call them Protoss, and then I was going to call them MaxPax. And then I was almost going to call them Maxtos. Or, that actually works. Or Propax? Ooh, Maxtos and Propax. That actually kind of works. Yeah, that is when MaxPax in real life merges together with a High Templar and becomes, yeah, a Protoss Archon. They'll have to choose a nickname at that point. Anyways, this time around, what I'm trying to get at, his economy is significantly better than the previous game. Not exactly sure. Maybe he just forgot chrono boosting a bunch in the previous game, or he just was not quite on top of the worker production. Because that really did get A little lopsided there in the end of that previous match. This is, of course, always a tricky hold, but it should be manageable. And if MaxPax holds on here, he's gonna have a very good economy. Colossus coming up on the back of this too. Maybe it was just a worker killing, actually. That did happen throughout that game. Anyways. Yeah, this is a scary, scary push from the Terran. Right when those upgrades finish up. Easily the biggest skill check you can do as a Terran player right now, because this is a very delicate hold that Protoss needs to execute. Okay. More reinforcements are thinking about going across the map. We do, by the way, not have a third command center here. So really just a committed 2-base push here from Clem, which explains why he's got such a tremendous amount of units. Zealots coming in from the bottom here, going after one of the Colossi. Or one of the siege tanks, rather. One of the Colossi having a grand old time. High ground vision actually was lost there for just a moment. Immortal taking a beating. Can we kill that siege tank? We will. Run away. Colossus gets it done. Brilliant. Really well handled right there by MaxPax. Now here's the reinforcement showing up though. Maybe early game Widowmine drops aren't very popular, but these Widowmines certainly managed to get some work in. And this may actually just justify the early game entirely here for Clem. 22 probes down the drain. That is literally full saturation. A full base saturation. 16 workers on minerals, 6 on gas. Yeah, 16 plus 3 plus 3, guys. I did the math. In a video, I know. Alright, Extended Thermal Lens is going to finish up. What's difficult, though, is that Clem never actually made a third command center on the back of this. So, he is forced to continue the aggression. I don't know if MaxPax has... Yeah, no, he has not spotted the additional unit production here. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to fly the command center from the main base spot down towards the low ground. MaxPax is going to see this. Will he pick up on the fact that this is a 2-base play? Very strange, by the way, to go for a 2-base opener or a 2-base all-in, I guess, on Golden Aura. This is the one map where you least expect it. Clem getting a little bit fancy, knowing very well that this is a map where this build is not easy on. But he decides to do it anyways, because he's hoping his opponent is going to be playing a little bit too greedy. Where's the Colossi? Oh, alright. Jeez. Yeah, don't mind if we do. Pushing the main base gets denied by the Protoss reinforcements. 10 kills on that bad boy, 4 kills, 2 kills. They're just having a grand old time shooting lasers at whatever they can. Bunch of misrallied units right there for Clem. Uncharacteristic mistake. But it happens. Yeah, despite all the worker kills, this feels like one of those games where Terran is slowly going to fizzle out over time. Because despite the fact that he's killed so many probes here, it's not like he's had a significant economical lead, right? So you can tell whenever the mules are mining. Mules are pretty neat. I'm assuming they are... There you go. Those yellow mining machines, they're going to town over at the command center, but as soon as they run out, suddenly that Terran economy is not looking nearly as good, and now it's MaxPax's turn to try and see if he can go for a big attack. Good blink micro over there. Nice on burrow too, but it doesn't really matter all too much because the Widowmine gets picked off anyways. Aggressive blink forward, which seems a little unnecessary, but look at those Archons. Look at those Colossi going to town. GG is cold. It's MaxPax who evens up the score in game number 2. Next up, we find ourselves on Site Delta, and it looks like Clem wants to go for the classic Terran opener, where he tried to just be an absolute nuisance. He decides to go for the engineering bay block over in the natural expansion of the opponent. What can be a little bit awkward here is that MaxPax is going to build the cyber core. He's going to go down to the low ground. He's ready to plant down a nexus, and then he finds this. Now what do? Do you go for the third base instead? Well, guess what? Pesky little SCV has decided to be over in that location too. It'll be the third spot where MaxPax can finally make an expansion. Yeah. I mean, maybe. Oh! Okay, he gets it down. If it was up to the SCV, it would continue blocking for a little bit longer. Now, I decided to have a quick look at the statistics between these two. So, in 2024 so far, these two have played a grand total of 54 tournament maps against one another. 54! That's a lot. I don't even... How many days have we... Days into 2024. I mean, as of me casting this... Okay, we're about 140 days or so into the new year so far. So these two have basically played at least one tournament map every third day. Huh, not bad. Not bad at all. Obviously, most of the time they play a series. But it's safe to assume they've been playing against each other pretty much every single week. And sometimes even more frequently than that. Sometimes in, well, for example, the Spring European Regionals, they even have been playing the very large tournaments as well. Anyways, in case you're wondering about the win rate and the win-loss ratios in general, Clem has apparently won 55.5% of the matches. So, not bad. Pretty back and forth. Slight advantage for Clem. I am currently, by the way, in the process of preparing some videos in advance. I'm not entirely sure when I will be publishing this particular one. It's been, it's funny, I've been prepping videos in advance for some time. So usually in the past, right, whenever I would go anywhere or whenever I had to do something in particular, so I have to get an ear operation in early June. I figured I'll just make some videos and I'll just start really early this time around so I don't get too stressed out because, oh, as we do have one of the stalkers getting caught out in the middle of nowhere. Not quite expecting the Reaper push here. Okay, nicely handled right there by Clem. Yeah, that natural expansion that was blocked now is really a thorn in MaxPax's side. The shield battery does finish, but that's 3 probes going down. One Reaper also falls, but not a bad beginning right here for Clem this time around. Hallucinated Phoenix too, so MaxPax forced to mix up the entire early game here. He is gonna go into the good old Blink Stalker build once again, but you usually don't want to go for a sentry unless you feel very confident. So he's going to be going into a bit of a scouting pattern, and I think he'll be relatively happy to note that he doesn't have to worry about too much counter-aggression here for the next minute or two. Stalker, still trying to chase down all of these units. Hellion is around still, but that one apparently not quite with its brothers. So only a single Reaper will be making its way home, but it does have 2 confirmed kills. Little suspicious, because originally there were 3 Reapers. Anyways, what I was trying to get at though is I have an ear operation and I'm gonna take a week off as well to just chill. And in general, usually I take like a summer holiday, but I probably won't be able to do that this time around because I don't know how long I won't be able to fly for and whatnot, you know? The doctor says I should probably feel okay again after maybe like a week or so, but I don't know. I just wanted to prep some videos in advance, and normally what I do is I start preparing videos maybe like 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks or so before I do anything that I can schedule around for, but this time around I decided to start quite a bit earlier. I've just been, yeah, on some days I've been making 2 videos instead of 1. I've been casting a little bit as well on the live stream. I've been, yeah, just trying to produce some additional videos here and there, get up a little earlier, make an extra video, or just change my schedule around a bunch. And the end result is that I've got like, I think I've got like 2 weeks worth of videos already ready to go. I just looked at it this morning. Normally I never have that. Normally I upload the video that I publish that same day. Or, yeah, no, I make the video that I publish that same day. So that's usually how I do things. But now I actually have a little bit of breathing room, and I gotta say, it's actually kind of nice. Yeah, I think I have about, we still have a bunch of time until my ear operation is scheduled. I don't really want to get too ahead of myself, but anyways, blink up into the main base. This is a double gateway blink, so really not a super committed push here by MaxPax. He wants to try and avoid losing whatever he can. Gets at least a reactor. That's nice. Raven going around to the bottom of the map as well, ready to drop a few auto turrets. This is where we have the explosion, the gateway, is what Clem would call this, I'm pretty sure. We have a gateway explosion going up, and that is going to really increase the production. Ooh, we're gonna go after the shield battery itself. Okay. Quick bit of damage done. And of course, that Raven is just going to be hanging out in the corner. I don't want to have my video, like, I don't know, there's... How long do you think a StarCraft 2 video is quote-unquote fresh for, right? Like, how old can a video be? Or a StarCraft game? How old can it really be before it becomes too old? I don't want to go too far into the future. I think that might, yeah, make things a little bit less fun. But, I think it's okay. I mean, most of the meta doesn't change that quickly, right? I know that some of my older videos, a lot of my older videos actually, still get quite a few views as well. So it seems like people just kind of want to watch whatever. But I try to keep them at least, maybe like 2 weeks old or so at most. I think that's reasonable. Nice pickup right there, actually. All right, anyways, how well would this defense go right here for MaxPax? As we do have a very big attack here. Zealots, though, coming in from the left. Clem trying to intercept the interception. Can we have the Immortals retargeted? There we go. Nicely done right here by MaxPax. I mean, it's not a full defense yet, but this is very likely to not go anywhere. Can he keep the Immortal alive? He will. Terran army is going to be forced to retreat. At least the siege tank doesn't have to get its threats dirty driving through the grass here, because it will be picked up by the medevac. A Warp Prism and a medevac are chasing each other around. Not bad. Okay. Big Zealot Warping over here, actually. I don't know if that's maybe a little overly ambitious. I was gonna say, Terran units coming from the natural expansion, running down to the low ground. Fourth Nexus will be building here in just a moment. There's a lot of Widow Mines around the main base. Sorry, I just gotta rewind that for a second. Prism goes into the main. Widow Mine connects with a Zealot. Zealot gets picked up in the Prism. Marine dies. Dang. MaxPax is brutal. Careful now, little Prism. He doesn't know where those Widow Mines are, but apparently he can just barely skate by them. The majority of them will get picked up. Yep, we're gonna have to see a recall, and we will. Warp Prism is gonna be making its way all the way back to the natural expansion of the Protoss player. Okay. Clem, setting himself up for what seems to be another attack. A little bit of a risky one, though, because he doesn't know exactly where that Protoss army is currently located. It's a lot of opportunity here for Terran to, well, take damage in the natural, you know? Like, there's a lot of opportunity here for that mineral line to get absolutely sliced up. Was that the Prism going down? I think it must have been, yeah. Warp Prism decided to go to the bottom. Nexus not done yet. That's what MaxPax is trying to buy time for right now, because battery overcharge can only be used when the Nexus is finished. Shield battery will be finishing up right around the same time. There's that Zealot run by, but it looks like reinforcing bio units are popping out of those barracks. In the meantime, we have a push over here at the front as well, of course. Clem is probably gonna drop. He loves this move. He loves this move so much. Yeah, he always does it. Colossi, though, can obviously use that cliff walking ability of theirs, but they need to be careful. Yeah, they're gonna be chased down really quick. They're retargeted, though, on top of all of those Marines. Speaking of Marines, a couple more of them are available here at the Nexus. Colossi, once again, walk down the cliff. Usually, the longer that these fights go on, the better it will be for Protoss, because battery overcharge and whatnot will be available. But look at the supply count right now. The army here for Terran is absolutely humongous. This is only a small chunk of it. MaxPax doesn't have an overwhelming worker count either, so yeah. Previously, we may have had a game where Terran is slowly fizzling out. I'm a little afraid we're gonna have a similar situation right now, but then in favor of the Terran. There was a bit of money in the bank too, though. So with MaxPax, there you go. He's really good at microing those units, man. Anyways, with MaxPax spending his bank, life did become a bit easier. 10 kills, by the way, on the Raven. Yeah, ultimately it does fall, but that is a good chunk of worker kills right there. But just a single unit that was just built for that early game detection and early game harassment. This, by the way, in my mind, Terran going up against Protoss, MaxPax going up against Clem. This is about as evergreen as StarCraft 2 content can ever be, you know? Like, this is one of those matchups that will probably be fresh for at least all of 2024. There are certainly some more time-sensitive StarCraft series that I cast, and I do give those priority whenever I publish a new video, which is pretty much every day, by the way. If you enjoy the videos, make sure you subscribe so you get notified whenever I do upload a new one. But anyways, this is definitely one of those matchups that you can enjoy the entire year long, you know? Like, this is not really something that'll be time-sensitive. I think everybody's well familiar with the rivalry between these two. They've been playing against each other so many times. Alrighty. Supply maxed out right now for Clem. Missile turret will be repaired. Not sure about this guy, though. That one will be destroyed. Alrighty, so we actually have a proper macro game now. It's gonna be Disruptors. It's funny because usually by this phase in the game, the game has already ended. As macro-focused as these two are, they're so good at like punishing mistakes that usually the games will already be finished at this point in time. Big Zealot run by, currently marching towards the other side of the map. Scanner reveals that there's no expansion taken over at the 3 o'clock position, so it'll be over here at the bottom instead. EMPs are available right now, but the same can be said, of course, for those Purification Novas. Battery Overcharge used in the middle of this combat. Colossi getting a lot of damage in. Zealots, rather than going for the third base, they're going to be marching straight to the natural, and they are going to be able to slice up that mineral line real quick. We do have that Nexus at the bottom of the map destroyed. Zealots now trying to get into the main base too. +3 is going to finish up for them in just a moment. Okay, that's actually 16 SCVs falling. They did kill a Nexus, sure, but that was also a Nexus that wasn't really that critical just yet. I would love to see maybe a double expend right here for MaxPax. Taking the expansion over there as well would not be a risky choice. Kind of the way that Zerg players usually like to play it. Okay, let's see. Purification Novas once again being used, trying to go around the corner. Siege tank does get clipped. There's 12 Vikings up in the air though, and that means that the age of the Colossus is over. The Colossi are going to get shut down. But what do you use the Vikings for right now? An age-old question. You can use them and land them on the ground as a ground unit instead. But as soon as you do that, Colossi are going to be back on the menu. And then you have to make Vikings again. Dark Templar coming up. They're currently warped in over at that third base. Or, well, I guess it was technically actually the first expansion that MaxPax ever made. These are basically going to be used as upgraded Zealots to create as much chaos around the map as they can. Shadow Stride will also be used for them, so that's the blink ability. +3/+3 starts up here for Clem. With securing a lot of expansions. But now he's got to deal with these Dark Templar. Sensor Tower, okay. Main priority, apparently. Not a bad kill, honestly. Now I have more SCV damage being done over in the natural expansion. Dark Templar tries to sneak away, but does not quite get it done. Expansion at the bottom of the map once more got cancelled just a bit ago. It has not been recreated yet. Quite a big chunk of the Terran army is currently at the right side of the map, and that means that this fight over here on the bottom is going to be very, very flimsy. Oh my god, beautiful catch right here. Uncharacteristic mistake by Clem, not on top of his medevac drops. 400 APM apparently is not enough, and that is about 30 supply down the drain, and that is solidly putting MaxPax back into this match. Okay, let's see. We still have 5 medevacs, which is decent, but not really the number that you're usually aiming for. Makes it difficult for Clem to continue fighting here as well. MaxPax would love to get this Terran army into a position where they can't really split as easily, right? Where they can't just run from those Purification Novas! Okay, a couple of the Marines do get clipped. EMP also landed with a lot of the Bio Ball. A lot of the Protoss Bio Ball, that is. Vikings now on the ground. Okay. So far, at least the big damage from those Purification Novas has been, negated. Of course, that's why those Dark Templar, though, can be such a nuisance, right? Because while you're trying to defend against all of these Disruptor Novas, you're also forced to split up and all that, right? And then you have to deal with Zealot run-bys and Dark Templar. I feel like Disruptors on their own, at this level, Clem should be able to micro against it comfortably. However, as soon as Disruptors are accompanied with Dark Templar or Zealot Runbys or whatever, as soon as Protoss creates chaos, then suddenly the potential of those Disruptors goes through the roof. Yeah, this is a great fight right here by Clem. Oh, great targeting as well. He's so good. That is so easy to mess up horribly. In the meantime, by the way, that expansion at the bottom, no longer around. So Clem, rather than paying attention to those Dark Templar, decided to focus on his army. And he did win the main engagement, but he did take a lot of economical damage in the process too. So I think MaxPax will be pretty happy with it all, because Disruptors are relatively affordable, at least when you compare them to Colossi. You can continue pumping them out relatively easily. Base at the bottom of the map right now has been secured. Medevac count not quite big enough to start up a big drop towards the bottom of the map, so Dark Templar are gonna continue onwards. Poor Marauders, man. I love Dark Templar. Actually one of my favorite units. As annoying as they are, they're also, I don't know. They're pretty much undetectable ninjas, okay? I think they're really badass, yeah. Well, this is an important base here for MaxPax, and it looks like he's giving up, yeah, the entire expansion pretty much uncontested. His entire army on the other side of the map. Only a small number of workers remain, though, for Terran as well. Only 40 at this point. Hold position on the Dark Templar. Purification Nova once again at the bottom of the map. Clem never seems to take one of those big Novas to the face. It's actually impressive. Yeah. It happens so much at the pro level even, where at some point you can micro and you can split against 17 Disruptors, but Disruptor number 18 is one step too far, you know? But that rarely seems to happen for Clem. It is a impressive skill. It's so easy to mess up. Colossi, by the way, back on the menu, just like what I was saying earlier. There's only 5 Vikings remaining. This is not really a game where Clem has been able to make the transition towards, for example, a bunch of Liberators either, which is a really good counter against these Disruptor-based armies, but you need a lot of economy for it, and preferably also a Fusion Core for the ranged upgrade and all that. Purification Nova gets a bit of damage done. Oh, he picks up! That was pretty. Blinks after it too, though, and gets rid of that gets rid of that medevac. In the meantime, Clem tried getting rid of a base, although I don't actually know if it ever started up in that location. Ooh, getting the double robo was huge, especially right before the Colossi are about to spawn. Big pickoff right there in favor of our French Terran. This is, of course, still a very split up Protoss, or Terran army, rather, and Protoss needs to meet it in kind. Disruptor's a little late to the party. That may honestly be another kill. Nah, I think the Disruptors are going to be able to push this back for the time being, especially since Clem is very focused on microing this army up north. 40 SCVs may not be a lot, but Clem apparently doesn't need much more. Super scrappy game at this point. Yeah, absolute roller coaster of an income advantage. Killing this base would be huge. I think he's gonna try and get it. Well, he wants to get the army. Fair enough. Could have easily had the Nexus if he wanted to, but sometimes guaranteed damage is the way to go. Although, I think that Nexus would have been guaranteed. Anyways. Yeah, at this point, the Terran army's massive. Those mules, once again, just providing so much additional income. And with a 75 supply lead, it's Clem who obtains the victory. Honestly, a beautiful game right there from Clem. Really well done. Yeah, it's funny. Clem rarely miss micros. Very frequently in this matchup, even at the professional level, do we see a Terran at some point just take a Disruptor Nova to the face, right? And then suddenly, the game is a landslide victory for Protoss. Even though Clem may not necessarily do the fanciest micro, right? Like, for example, Bjorn. Bjorn is known for his ridiculous fancy control sometimes, where he manages to get value out of Terran units that we didn't even really know was possible. I think Terran overall, when it's microed by Clem, just is so consistently properly controlled. Even though it doesn't look particularly fancy, he rarely makes a significant error. So Yeah, honestly, really well done right there by Clem. I think maybe as far as like peak micro goes, Bjorn might be a little bit better. Because Bjorn really does get a lot of juice out of his early game Terran units in particular. He's so good at microing those, especially Reapers and Cyclones and all the rest of it. But yeah, Clem can do a little bit of that too, for sure. That other series that he played against MaxPax comes to mind, where they played that game on Amphion with just ridiculous control from Terran. I really like that Cyclone Medevac play. Anyways, I think as far as peak micro goes, maybe Bjorn is ever so slightly better, but Clem is certainly more consistent than Bjorn. Yeah, more consistently good at not messing up. Because sometimes players like Bjorn, they tend to get a little bit carried away with the micro too, where at some point his macro is suffering a bit. So he's not really spending his resources as well as he could be. Clem really is, in my mind, pretty much the perfect all-round Terran right now. I don't really know any particular weakness. For a while you could criticize his defense, right? So his defensive play was not quite as strong. But he's really worked on that, and he's so strong right now with that too. I know there's a lot of players that will consider Maru to be a little bit better, and I will say that Maru in offline tournaments is usually more stable. It seems like Clem does get some more of those tournament jitters, where he plays a little bit worse at offline events where he doesn't. But like, you can't really say that very easily anymore either in 2024. That used to be the case in the early days of competition for Clem. But he really worked on that, and he's much better at that too. Clem is also only 22 years old right now, which is something you can kind of forget about easily, because I think a lot of us, at least I have, I've seen this man compete for 6-7 years now. And he seems to still be getting better too, so yeah. Calling it now, guys. Clem, the Terran GOAT? That's how you anger the Maru fanboys. Look, I'm the biggest Maru fanboy too, okay? But I have been genuinely very impressed by Clem. I think he's incredibly good. Is he better than Maru? Eh, probably not. Maybe? I don't know. Hard to say. It just seems to me that Clem is still improving, whereas Maru can sometimes seem a little bit stagnant. Plus, and maybe this is just a bit of personal bias, as we do have a Widowmine drop coming in. I'm just not a fan of that super passive style that the Korean Terrans like to go for. I know that is just personal bias, but my god, especially in TVZ, sometimes Maru can just sort of sit there and do a whole lot of nothing. I don't love that. I personally don't love that. So in my mind, just that alone gives, you know, if they're basically a 50-50 in my mind, right? Or maybe like a 55 in favor of Maru. In my mind, just the passive playstyle. It takes a couple points away from you. Even though it's very successful and he wins a lot of games with it. Anyways, enough blabbering. We've got ourselves. I haven't even talked about the game yet, and we're 5 minutes in. We have a Widowmine drop in the bottom left-hand corner. It's a Blink Stalker opener here with 3 gateways here from MaxPax. Let's see how much... You can disagree with me, by the way. You can make fun of me in the comment section. That's totally fine. This doesn't need to be an echo chamber. Although I know I'm right. So, you know, what are you going to do about it? Anyways, no. Blink Stalker's going around the site. Lovely little play here from Max. No, well, I say that and he loses a Stalker completely unnecessarily. Stimpack, of course, not done here at this point in time. Widowmine drop. Hello, Max. Okay. Luckily for him, it retargeted those Stalkers. Yeah, could have been in a little bit of trouble. I think he actually just stood his ground there because he realized that Terran was going to retarget. That was actually a very strange gentleman agreement right there, where I think MaxPax made the assumption that Clem was going to retarget, so he wasn't going to bother moving his Stalkers. Okay, let's see. MaxPax is going to have to deal with a load of siege tanks. Obviously, this is before charge or anything like that is done. Stalkers trying to buy as much time as they can. Observer over here sees what's going on, and he sees the green light inside of that tech lab startup. So he knows at this point that Stimpack combat shields +1. I mean, the timings also just don't make a lot of sense. They're not even remotely finished yet. Looks like we had another little auto turret there as well, coming in from the left side. The real moment, though, where Clem is gonna want to commit is when those upgrades finish up. Stimpack combat shields +1 infantry weapons. The classic. Prism in the meantime. ready to go and drop the opponent's natural expansion. And we actually have a different follow-up this time around here for MaxPax. So rather than going from a bunch of Blink Stalker into Colossi, we see him going now into the good old Psionic Storm. I like Psi Storm builds. I think they're really good. It's just that Ghosts shut it down so hard. Usually Terrans will go into Ghost when they have the 3rd Command Center up and running, when they have a bunch of bio production too, so Barracks number 4 and 5 are coming now. We should see the Ghost Academy after this. He's not really going to attack at this point, even though Stimpack, Combat Shields, plus 1 infantry weapons, all of it is finishing. He knows at this point that charge is done too, and it's going to be difficult to get much damage in on the other side. This has been a different opener as well, by the way, from Clem. It's a single gas into Expo. You can see this reflected right now quite nicely. Worker count here, 57 versus 70. Still an advantage, of course, for MaxPax in that regard, but the mules, they can make up for that. 4th Nexus building on the left side of the map too. Robo Bay coming up here for the Protoss player, so he does want to mix in all sorts of splash damage here, eventually. Observer ended up getting killed. We do have a Prism full with High Templar. And this is a nice opportunity for MaxPax to potentially get some damage done, because this is before any sort of Ghost hit the battlefield. Now, we are only a little while away from that. Ghost Academy is building. Obviously, the EMP ability. One of the most powerful spells in the game. Some might even call it a little bit too powerful. Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm, you know what? I'm with those people. Yeah, I think EMP is just a little bit too good. Storm? Okay. I've always felt that EMP in general would be complained about a lot more if it had a fancier animation. But just because it doesn't look the way that Storm does, not a lot of people seem to complain about it, but it's much better than Storm overall. Also because the Ghost is just a tremendously useful unit. Storm? Yeah, not really getting it done, eh? Siege tanks in the meantime getting a lot of work in. MaxPax decided to dive pretty deep there, hoping for the Golden Storm, but now he is being chased down by a massive... He just got chased down by everything. That was honestly a brilliant engagement there by Clem, inviting that entire Protoss army to walk into siege tank range while setting up the perfect concave. It'll be difficult for him to really push in. He could decide to go for a drop towards the main base or even the natural expansion or the 4th if he wants to. But I think Clem is looking maybe at like a full frontal assault. He's thinking about it. Prism going around after dropping off all of those High Templar. 4th Command Center, finished up. Clem is going to be flying that one on over towards that horizontal position. Auto turret, not going to happen this time around as the Raven falls. Well, it gets the snipe as well on the Templar. Okay, at this point, 2 of the High Templar have gone down. Big Zealot Warping in the main base. Same recipe here as MaxPax, different ingredients. He's trying to create a distraction once again to try and see if he can deal damage with his splash army. Distraction successful. One of the Colossi has already gone down. EMP, EMP, EMP. Not bad. Good control right there by Clem. Now the Templar are without energy. Zealots coming in from the right side. Is there enough Terran to just stand their ground? Kind of. 19 SCVs, by the way, have been killed in the meantime. Those Zealots, of course, have also gone down. MaxPax holds with 81 workers still intact. Excellent hold right there for MaxPax. Prism decides to sneak away again, and this is distracting a lot of those Terran reinforcements. Clem would love to regroup and bring everything together to maybe go for one big attack. But when there's a Prism out there, okay, it will get shut down. It's difficult to do it. Now he can certainly make that decision. 2-2 though is on the horizon, so you might want to wait for maybe a half minute or so. You can see him selecting those upgrades there too. Just to keep an eye out on exactly how long it's going to be until they finish. Another Nexus is building at the bottom of the map. 6 High Templar available, by the way. 4 medevacs full of units, ready to go across the map. Zealot scouts it. Excellent scout right there by MaxPax. Do we see some feedbacks or a storm? Okay, no, we see nothing. Even though he saw it, I don't know if he actually did notice it, you know? Like, seeing it and noticing it is not quite the same thing. It was technically within his vision there. But you do have to be paying attention to the minimap right at that second in the game. Okay, 2-2 at this point is done for Clem. He's maxed out. He's got 69 workers. Nice. And that is going to give him basically everything that he needs. Clem very frequently seems to sit at 69 workers. Yeah. Definitely his favorite worker count. Okay. MaxPax's army here is good, though. He doesn't have a 5th base, which he desperately would like to have. 5th command center, 6th command center coming up right now for Clem, ready to play the big macro game. Probe is going to start up the 6 Nexus at least. This will get scouted immediately though by Clem, who's got 4 medevacs full of units in this area of the map. There is an army, but it's not in the right position. Nexus get cancelled immediately. And this is starting to make things a little bit desperate though here for MaxPax, despite the fact that he's maxed. Despite the fact that he's got good upgrades, he's got a good eco, he's got a lot of resources in the bank too. He needs to break out of this contain that the Terran has made. I don't even know if we can really even call it a contain. He's just huddled back there in fear. I think in a straight up fight, his army is really strong. A lot of Widow Mines have been sprinkled around the map too, making it difficult for those Zealots to really achieve too much. Command Center will be acquired up north. And that is one of those things that MaxPax really cannot let happen. Base at the bottom of the map is going to start up once again. Okay, slices off some of that Terran army. Yeah, Protoss really is lacking vision in this section of the map. I would love to see some sort of vision over there. Observer, I guess, would be the most obvious choice. MaxPax just doesn't see those medevacs coming in, and it's forced him to cancel that Nexus a couple times already. He actually has no observer in the mix. He's lost all of his observers. Huh. Yeah, interesting. He only ever made 2 in this game. He's not currently maxed out. He could definitely round out his supply here a little bit better. Once again, look at this medevac drop. Coming in uncontested. Clem must realize as well that this is starting to really now hurt the Protoss, who's going in for a big attack. Massive EMP right there. Colossus falls immediately. Archon falls too. Good start of an engagement right here for the French Terran player for sure. Target firing on the Vikings would be appreciated. Likewise, the Vikings would like to target fire down the Colossi, I suppose, but... Okay, well, all of the Colossi at this point is... Yeah, they're gone. Orbital Command falls. A lot of Immortals still remain. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, that Nexus, still denied. Medevac drop is heading on over towards the main base. Big EMP right there on those Immortals. Those Immortals really packing a punch. Prism shows up right now, goes for a Warpin. Do we have enough to shut all of this down? Not quite. SCVs sacrifice themselves. They throw themselves at those Immortals. So far, the Immortals are living up to their name, but there are a lot of Terran reinforcements coming up. Marine Marauder Medevac, an absolute classic unit composition. Now fully maxed out as far as the upgrades go, and with those Immortals falling, it'll be Clem who obtains the victory over MaxPax 3-1.